Rinpoche. Sorry, we cannot hear you. Okay, I saw you and so now we will recite the opening prayers together, and we will recite each language one time. Okay. All mother center beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. First, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until that, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha more excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merits of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless at the sky, have happiness and the cause of the happiness. May we be liberated from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness, which is free from sorrow. May we rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. I beseech the great Vanjadhara, Tilopa, Naropa, Mapa, Milarepa, Gampopa, Pamudrupa, Lord Jiten Sumgon, at the feet of the root guru, who possessed the three ways of kindness, and all the root gurus and spiritual master of the lineage, the Yidam and Dhamma protectors, may your marvelous blessing permeate my mind. So end of opening prayer. Yeah, we finished the opening prayer.
Orji Rinpoche la ke zanza jimeza tuje jengo da mande shivzang bocha dawa tamjin jimba kumjin chiji. Nyamen drugong renjen ke zanza shivzang galan jera jengor jen zeba donda zilan la bawa jera dimba gong la zan. Gaju Rinpoche la ke zanza rawami chiji jenje porama sanje kunjeng Rasen Jugo Mozon Donzebe Zavala Mayala Sanza Daso Sinje Damja Lo Chuson Rover Sinja Labdus Chulam Don Rover Sinja Labdus Lam Chuva Seva Sinja Labd Chuva Yihis and Java Sinja Labdus so Sangmanatini Samdru Trahibdele Shujetan Layan Jarwa Gao Jones Tini Tatring Ransoyang Shenegi Konetini Kangshishi Ngaransotini Yang Tribute Shugins.
So first of all, Dashidele to everyone. Very happy to see you again today. And today I will again do my best to explain the practice of Shamatha, calm abiding to you.
Chiranzo Katang Kondu Hibahin So Gom Jab Imbes, Shene Gom Imbe.
Like we said the other time for our homework, did you meditate? Did you practice Shamatha?
Yes. Oh yeah. Pajang chiransu gom jab chuta seyu banga yichi yu 제요레스 암코요스 지야 고고레스 된 마제나 가야 핀토고요 말에 된드 소속의 추다세난다 소속의 희인도 만도다 인지미지 소소 냠니시야 다 곰자에 땡이 빠트 고고레스
So I trust that all of you probably have all practiced meditation. That you have tried meditation, and you have to do it because if you don't do it, it's of course of no benefit. So I'm sure you have not really tried to look at am I really, do I really know how to meditate and so on. So surely we do have to actually put the meditation into practice.
Tene hene gom tendesi tene hene ge nyamche tendesi de jungbo de tu yu sare chiran so hene ge nyamche sa jungbo de tu de gom tu de
And so now since you have practiced meditation and shamatha, have you had did you gain some kind of experience of, are you able to stay in meditation for some longer time?
tene tat katsang nga gong de hyu tambo ngaran so hene se ta te titsik de tang te ge tonda de tang ngaran so ha ko ge teres titsik de tang tonda de ha ma wa ina 나랑 같이 힐랭 공부 요사나야 돈다 엄마 때다 현에 등을 생투고요 말아봤어. 된 담보 고 현에서야게 책대 현에서야 책대 든리도 아시. 현에서야 동게 차네다 용어 차네다 든리지리도 아 야는 든리지 인사를 했으면 지금 아그 생때니 다 니시지 제거. 대니시지 제 상황이나 드닝아 그 곰자 다 곰자네 드니 탑 라므라 띵 초고도 아시. Gone to yala.
So I've explained to you the other day how to what's the meaning, what is shamatha meditation. So then you might have gained an understanding of the meaning of that word. So that is that's the meaning of shamatha meditation. If you don't understand the meaning of that word, then it's also of no benefit. You also have to really understanding the meaning also means to actually gain an experience. Otherwise, you haven't really recognized the actual nature of shamatha. So first, you recognize that word, so you understand that this is what shamatha is, and then when you put it into practice, then you gain an experience of what that actually is. So then you gain some kind of a certainty, you gain some kind of a conclusion, think that this is that experience of shamatha. And so once you have gained that certainty, then you will be able to apply different methods of actual meditation practice.
다 휴세야게 책대 배낭안서 zubol zinda uchi jakona rwa zugdo nacha de jakuyona teni nacha de ma mi pa chan zug de man jambo chan ora nacha hyo zug ma hyo ro ze zug de man jam ro rwa pe ten ro dara hyo sen de rang sen gu ting ni 다 다른 등에 zubu 그때네 다 zubu 그때네 zog 나찬로 마 효용하이나 되니 제족도 마미 봐 차용나 되니 거 제족 만장소인 나차 지데 마 효송으로 왔어 다 same 그때네 나란 솔라다라 남도 망보여다 너르스지나 남도 망보 참참 코 메게 히발레티네 되니 야 zong ramanal thongwal tine ya namton ramanda ji her pen nawa ga daman dan ramanda ta da nyimba de nyimba dan do de ngan so chi sen la phojo de mo phojo chek zibo den jampo ta to so tuwa yin ya tine a sen namton ramanda ji Peti na soso ki wangbo de hipa la tine tini de so ko wangbo yole wangbo le tini yor te tawal tini nangwa le tini sembe tini namton ra ma che he yorwa tini namton ra ma che ywa yina o ta te kap te la nga semla tini hene la gu yo mare te la nga so kare la gu yore sena truwa la gu ta truwa yana namdo ki jisin rangwaas namdo darang anso ta namdo ke tugu yor semten do na ta tele ngaso ke yang nyo mumba yang segyor ta nyo mumba yang kare sene ta your pena mege wang politine ta mege wang politine tini zong drama na thong tini tela tini ngarang ke chapa tang yang na dangwa yang na nawa ke tini ying ke tsing yapo tang yang na tsing nimba la yong ina yang tela chi semla jiba tang ma jiba tan de sola tini nga ke sem ke tini ta namdo mangbo di jen du tini nga ke sem tin chuk de rwa chuk de pa te nyom mumba kin chuk yo ko chirang la maji ke ja nimbo ji hien yong ina yang chirang sem de da dewan ro chi yo rwa dewa te yang ko lower te yang ko mi pa chane yang namdo yimba ji jen ro tende sene ta sem chuk du ta sem chuk de pa yena te la nga ju hene se yo ma da hene se ya de la wangbo ki hipal tine yor nangwa la jis manrang wa chi rwa ti jis manrang ne te ki jis rang de yor tin thong yong kal tel tap chi kaya ma je chi tan dor de yor tin de rin do yagari do duar tende sam no chine ma tang wa chi sem khorang la ma hlu dum ba yor la chine ma te chi sem khorang ma ne pa la ne nam 팔이 쭉 낭데 바테케 초와데 셈나 출컬 마하베치 너나 나와데 저 세나 온데 리도 아사메치 저 셈나는 마정와치 그리고 셈도 코 만네 탑 남도데 맞아 남도데 맞게 왔어 거다 너드나 신내고 남도 맞게 왔어 맞아 남도데 홉스칼은 통도 홉스 까고는 갑래 커보여 봐 얘는 남도 그런 짓은 만랑와치 요팅 통요나 디지스타 메기 히팔레티네 존 통알레티네 티니 디지스 티니 남도 온딘데리도 든데리도산 판징바 마제비치 티니 콘 통나야 텔 답지 강야 마제비지 가 셈데 마루른 바야 다 디티나 네고 레시네스
So shamatha, this term calm abiding. So calm is so for example when you experience some physical pain, you're sick, and then when that pain goes away, then it calms down. So when the sickness calms down, then the pain also goes away. And so it's similar to that in the mind. So in brief, normally there are many thoughts arising within the mind. So sometimes, for example, when you see things with your eye sense, you see all kinds of forms and different appearances, then through seeing different appearances, all kinds of thoughts arise within the mind. Or with your ears, when you hear sounds, pleasant or unpleasant with your ears. For example, you hear words that maybe affect you, offend you, or affect you in any way, whether they're harsh or gentle words. There's all kinds of thoughts arising in the mind depending on what we hear. So first there is this sense power, that sense consciousness that perceives an object, an appearance, and that appearance then generates all kinds of thoughts in our mind. And at that time, this state of mind is not what we call shamatha. This is what we call delusion, or we just call it pursuing thoughts, following thoughts, or proliferation of thoughts, or we call that an afflicted state of mind. And so that happens when you see something with your eyes and a form, and then that generates a feeling of attachment or aversion. Or you hear something with your ears, somebody says something, and something pleasant or unpleasant, and that generates all kinds of thoughts in the mind. So the mind becomes disturbed by afflictive emotions. If somebody says something nice to you, then you feel some happiness. But then that's also temporary and that goes away. And then again, a different thought arises in the mind and disturbs your mind. So this state of mind is not what we call shamatha or karma abiding. Shamatha is when you do perceive things with your sense power, sense sources, but you do not follow those objects, those appearances. So for example, you see a physical object of sight, you see it, but you do not analyze it. You don't think of it as this is good or this is bad. But rather the mind settles in a relaxed state without paying attention really, without labeling or analyzing the object that is perceived. So that means even though you do perceive appearances, they do not generate thoughts in the mind. You do not follow those thoughts. So you don't label them thinking of, oh, that's what it is. That's it. But rather the mind continues to stay in a calm state. So when there are no thoughts arising in the mind, this is what we call shamatha, calm abiding. And so now in the beginning, it is quite difficult to just all of a sudden to see the thoughts and then to just stop the thought, stop the thinking. Even though it's difficult, at least we can not follow that thought. So we try not to pursue the thought. So even though you see something, not following the thought means you don't grasp at that thought, oh, that's it, this is what it is. So while seeing something, you don't analyze what you're seeing, but you're rather trying for the mind to settle, to rest in a relaxed state without pursuing the thoughts that arise. So that's what we call shamatha.
다 신에서야 되니 책대 하 고스나 되니 나게 쳐. 다 곰자 아시다 그런도나. 신에서야 되고 책대 든디지리도 삼. 그러. 책이 뭐가네 어고 셔세도 생하게 일하야. 되니 내선도 대일하야. 뒤책이 대일이야. 셔선데 다 좋은 노르드는 나게 나서 다라 곰서야 돼. 셈 때는 시에노 곰서야 돼. 곰자가 셈라. 셈 시가 단 노르스디나. 다라데 율르시가 마 곰자세 셈르시가로 셈 나랑게 셈르시가다 나랑게 셈르시인데 셔네세도다 나게 셈텔라 셔네 공골이라 부도와스 페나가랑스 페 차야나 치랑게 파마게 치랑트는 롭단 로그리다 세나 드니 치랑 롭단 로그로 롭단 코야게 잘라데 컬 드니 치랑 롭단 로 드디 지게로 대나이 다치나 신의 공고리다스나 신의스나 간지 신의스나 생부때는 다 남도 맞지 봐 지금다 생부때는 남도 맞지 봐 생부때는 남도 맞지네 남도 야가야 강야 맞지 남도 님바야 강야 맞지 남도 약조냐 강야 맞지네 대땡나 세만 네탑탑지 지금다 신의스 디드는 네 두초링동 같이 네트나네 배sor치고레스 땡아랑게 셈르시가 열르준이 시가 말다 열르준이 시가 나게 셈게 때나 단 남도스는 아주 하고거다 뭐 남도세 저다는 남도스는 하 레라오 고안로지 여러 남도스는 얘는 나가를 쳤다는 삼로진 동도 괜찮 남도스는 갈색이 살이 삼산로지 로와 남도세 망볼라고 남도세는 가르세 그 요살이사 남도세나 생긴하네 삼로 망본 걸고도 와 삼론라 만라 망본 걸고다 텔라 되네 남도라 버리 다 신의 건자도 ndramanda madin la oche ndramanda madin ro sema lulu ji de la kota sem kanya madin chi lulu ji de mujin ro ndu yo na o chira ta tna de la na tna de ro te ko zupo den ro sam ya ne te ma kap ja kal ndu yo ro wa o pe te na gi ta sem ga na mangbo ting ko na mangbo madin la ko sem na sam no mangbo ma ta ma de ma lulu chi sem sam no ma ta se na ma lulu ji sem ran wa bia lo sem ran wa bia se ndi nam to ga kan ya ma chu chi nam to kan ya ma che chi lulu chi muji de lan de ri ma ten ro so ma yin ko ma de pa re wa oh teni sem na ne teni nam to ma che ba se ndi tel chine la go nam to che so na ko chine cha go ya ma ya
So when you understand this word, the meaning of this word shamatha, then you have to see for yourself, do I really know how to meditate? So first you recognize this is what shamatha, this is what calm abiding is. So you bring this to mind. You remember this is what calm means, and then what is abiding. So then you keep that in mind. What abiding means when you actually practice shamatha, you remember these words. What does it mean to be calm? What does it mean to abide? So basically, when we speak about meditation, we're speaking about the mind. We are not speaking about some kind of material object. We are just speaking about your own mind. So meditation, practicing meditation is to know how to make my own mind abide calmly. So, for example, when you're given the instruction, you should meditate. Now you should abide calmly. It's just like when your parents tell you, today you should go to school. So when your parents tell you, go to school, then you're going, don't you? Then you're getting ready to go. You get all your things together for school and then you go. And so similarly, when you're told, now practice shamatha, practice calm abiding, then you have to know what that means so then you can do it. And so what does it actually mean? So normally all kinds of thoughts arise within our mind. Shamatha is when there is no thought arising in the minds. So here we are speaking about the discursive mind, the thinking about things. So there is no thought, no positive thoughts, or there's no negative thoughts at all. And then that is a calm. There's no thought arising, and then the abiding is to continue in that state of calm. So that's the abiding part, and then you try to abide, stay within that state for however long you can. You make an effort. So again, we are speaking about the mind and not any kind of physical object. So first we need to understand what is that thought, what is meant by thought. So normally when we think about what is a thought, we can all easily understand that we have all kinds of thoughts within our mind. But then when you actually look inward in your mind and you see what is that thought, then it's a bit strange to really, hard to recognize it. What really is that thought? So what we mean here is no thought arises and so on. It means we're speaking about this chain of thoughts, the discursive thinking mind. So that's what we mean with no thought. So normally there's all kinds of different thoughts constantly, a chain of thoughts arising in our mind constantly. So that's what we call the discursive mind, the thinking mind. And shamatha is the opposite of that. There is no thinking in the mind. You don't think all kinds of things. You just abide, you stay in a relaxed state without thinking about anything. So you just stay relaxed. So for example, when you're walking around and a person tells you, don't walk around, stay here, have a seat. then you stop walking and you're sitting down on the chair, for example, right? So then once you sit down, you're no longer walking, no longer moving. And so similarly, that's what you do when you're told, don't think at all in your mind. Stop thinking and just relax the mind. It's like, and take a seat and don't think all kinds of things. Or we call it kind of settle in the natural state without cultivating all kinds of thoughts in the mind. So just relax in this thought-free state. So when somebody is not sitting and walking, then they're not staying calm, right? Then they're walking. And so similarly, so when there are thoughts arising in the mind, you are not practicing calm abiding. And when there are no thoughts arising in the mind, then that is a state of calm.
다 나게 현에데 소잠 하고서는 드니 대땡나 드니 샘찌직도 드니 내고레스 샘찌직도 내고레스 다 대답더니 샘찌직도 드니 남도게 강야 마유에체네 드니 찌직도 드니 내 특구요나 디텔랑 아주 현에게 곰스 드니 안가서 남준 참참 곰스 디치 mixer ji thowa ji yusari samsan ro ji ngaso tenu yongo yo ro mixer ji chi go yusari mixer khaya go man se rawa byo gore la se khora rawa ma ya gores zob ji khaya ma zis rawa ma yas teni te tena teni de na teni ngaso goms ya tela namju pen na chene go na mikpa tang chima chine khaya gom ji mis mikpatan sima jinju gom ji mikpatan sima le tripo gom dur tsamya gom ya yo mares yina ya ki kyang yin ya yo mares semte yin ya yo mares ta chek de ta ha chek ni shuwa yin ba she ne se ya te khorang nga ge gom ya de sheneri ta chek ni yung go ta gom ya mila yingse ya mis ta ti tsengi de pen nenga rita nga zo namju gom zo de chi mixer chi yusari samsa tendre mare mixer kaya go mare sem lulu ste tel gom ta tela maing ba go ta maing ba sem maing ba gom je mila yingse mi ti tsengi de pen nenga yor yingsen ha ko yue 마행바 생하고도 잉세야 마행바 세야데 대하고도 잉송나스 베르야나스 나란소 인디치 페나 카팔란디 지메게 탄로노라 인디치 탄로데 셈 참아드는 잉데르바 누니 모라지 잠나 나하고 마 잡차디미스 그래서 코셈 잉데르바 대답 드니 나라 남주 셈이 semraman de yule yengro ta dende yang mares de chini chia yang mares mayang bas ya de khasan tinshi ni chikbar mayang bas de onga gom jabyu banga ha ko ta gom jab do nga shene gom do shene de tak ta ko sem de de do ye ne do ye de tak ta ha ko ta de tak ta ha ko de wa ina ta chu mayang ba ri ta 저 남도 지제 영화에나 저 하코트바 양마 니 콩로 곰장 참참마 니 콩로 니 콩로는 그가 니 콩로도 사 로 대 코하코 대 마행바 양 참참 셈는 삼로 힘바 코리용 삼로 힘바코 베나 소소기지 레간로다 양나 소소기지 다 족보 정문로다 지 삼로 셈는 남도 남는 코리용 거요 저 영성와이나 저 하고만 디지슨 장로로 봐 셈로로 마행바스 들람사 하고로 nga 남도 제성산 남도 제성산 하고와이나 드니고 남도 지슨 장거 말해 딱 곰 세테리다 될 마행바스
So now you have, once you ever understood what is shamatha, what is calm abiding. So when I understand that, then next I must abide. I know I must abide single-pointedly. So there's not a single thought in the mind, and then I stay with that single-pointedly, and that is called practicing shamatha, calm abiding. And sometimes people think that meditation means that meditate, some kind of a special feeling, some special experience has to arise. But there is nothing, no special feeling, no special experience that has to arise at all. All that happens, the experience that has to arise when you meditate is you just rest in a natural state without altering, without changing anything to that. You just stay in a natural state. And if you continue in that state, that's what we call meditation. So meditation actually is not anything that is sort of like fabricated. So when we practice shamatha, we don't need any kind of visualization of it. We don't need to fabricate any kind of characteristic for that meditation. There's nothing actually that needs to be done. But also, even though nothing needs to be done, you also must not be distracted for even a single moment when you meditate. So these two words here, calm and abiding, is what we need to practice. And calm and abiding means that there is nothing to be meditated upon, but also there is not a single moment of distraction at all when you're meditating. So these two words actually are extremely important. They have that's really a very that's the crucial point of meditation, and because normally we might think that meditation is some special kind of experience that has to arise, but it's nothing like that. There is no special feeling or experience that has to arise at all. What has to be cultivated is just to stay in a restful, calm state, while at the same time not be distracted for a moment. So there's nothing to be meditated upon, and there's also not a moment of distraction. So these two words are really extremely important when we meditate. So you have to recognize now, what is distraction? What is it to be not distracted? For example, we usually take our phone and we go around just looking at our phone and are completely distracted. The mind is completely distracted by the phone, and then we might have an accident, a car accident, but we don't know what happens until after it has happened, because we are completely distracted. So this is how normal to be distracted by anything. The other week, it's actually the same as being mindful. Being non-distracted is the same as being mindful. So then you've understood. So I know now this is what meditation means. And then you have to see, am I able to really abide within such a state of calm or not? So you have to really analyze, look mind. And when you really understand it, when you see it, you recognize that this is what meditation is. It is a state of non-distraction, meaning that even though a thought may arise, you instantly recognize the thought. You know, you're mindful of it. So normally, often it happens, right, when we are meditating, but then we are falling asleep while we're meditating, don't we? So when you're undistracted, you immediately recognize that. If you notice, oh, I'm falling asleep. So there is a recognition of an awareness of what is happening. Or sometimes you do all kinds of things. You're thinking about the things that you have to do, or you're thinking about your friends and so on. You have all kinds of thoughts in your mind. And normally we don't even know, we don't notice what we are actually thinking all the time, which means we are just following all these thoughts. That's the meaning of following the thoughts. That's the meaning of distraction. When you are undistracted, then you will immediately recognize these thoughts when they arise, and you know that, oh, I'm thinking. And when there's a recognition, then you will not follow these thoughts. So that's what we call non-distraction. And so it's on the basis of non-distraction that you should meditate.
다 곰자요 그러고 곰자시네 곰든듯이데 레라고 곰투고요 말봐 가르시나 당가 나도 당한판지 빼고 박차시는다 곰리시는다 싫어요 말봐 박차다 곰리 미쳐도 당하기 신의 곰런도거나 콜레가 뜻사반도 지리다 레가 뜻사반이나 드니 될 뜻이 갑래 여러와 빼나치랑 이게 진저거나 당보 이게 인저인데 레라오면도 와 tani kale tani pe yarjen roya doa pe tina gini nganzo tara ta hine gom sende yang kakhe ki yang humani te pakcha yu sipare to so yena ko lamsa ha ko thya gon thya to so tin yujiri ro yang ki wa ngama pakcha hira minjo na ko tata lamsa nga so gom lan ro ndu gom ja go samna dambo hine se te karla la ku yusari samsam Congo matchiba mangbo yungorwa te kasi ta oshinesene tendiji mingro samyanda uchi koachi longwa yina ta ngustitena lani tolo ta gomjan rondi teni te skable yorwas te kable yondi ta telanga kita bechor sigora bechor sene teni ta techi semtene tabla kandichi gotu rowa 나랑 샘드네 다 코슈비지 뇽몽바 남바도 망보 여러와 데인데 다 샘네 탑 시인데 오다 탑라 망보 도와스 탑라 망보 띵거 도와스 베나 가장 가나서 디 띵제스 현에 띵제스 mikpa 띵네 샘네 탑 저거도 베 디나 이는 가나서지 잔다올라 띵 자힘바 되는다 단 돌때는 베나 가나서 던다오지라 땅 세야지 요러와 디 자랑라 상 자님이 그 답지시금 자테 나쇼 그때 나그 자테라 띠네 띠니 양 샘도 임발을 주님 만들어 지르바 너도는 나 샘도 임발을 너 마상 답지 지거다 요리 임발을 샘도 틀 마상 남도 그 지스랑 마상 진 샘도 mikpatina ta semde ko chechik de sneala tablam chagota megetane yultine tini terangla mayang wachine naga sente ne thudwe yamana nawa gdala tine naga sente ne thudwe and tini semge naga sente ne tab naga tablang naga tarthugo yorba better kare chen te chagorsina nala tana komdi mi chadu 다 열지를 마티는 나 곰도 자투고 말해 빈 엔들이 나는 저 부충충지 부고 당아토 스인데 저 부지 야 랑을 딱딱딱 로투고 말해 로투고 면도와 드니 코란소 담보 깡바니 락바니 쪽 드니 텍스트스로 드니 야 락바디 칼레 장 로와 장라티 드니 칼레 야랑 드니 칼레 곰파포 투고도와 그래서는 코티 장라티네 장라티는 코 공파 보트야 탑지자 거다 대 장라티는 코 야랑도 랑탑서 대 칼레칼로 대 요마 칼레로 틀리 차거도 오 나랑서 다라 믹틴스야 신네 기타라 띵제스야 대 베텐라오 나게 셈게 네차 람상 셈라 박차데 미언 차드 신네 고야가 박차 미언 차드 다테 쳐 박차데 나게 셈라 쳐 잘고라 박차데 잘고도 되니 mikpachil matin nga ne thuko mata namdo mangthane de yu tini nga so mikjes miktin sia tini telati tini kale nga ke tara mikje de yapu mikpatin la tini nga ke semti ne thuko yo na aya tini te phathung ring samchi Tene ta mektin mago wachi nyamachi chagro pute pu chunyo de nyamachi kale yuma kol tingo mendo kho ya la ta no chogro o ten ro tene mektin mago basani tene ngagita shene te tene gonta ba ta tende yongore shene te ko mektin yu jana mektin mi jana shene se ya te chikpa 탐람 지 제발 연구도 왔어 너나 체라 mektin yu pa chenan rigido mi pa chenan rigido 샘드네 투부도스 샘드 드네 준 퉁퉁 네 투고는 때 장망자 지더니 야 준 네 투벨더니 메소 치고도스 베는 맥딘데 소소게 따라 강바 소소게 대사게 따라 진 강바 강바기 장라오다 야나 기용라오다 강바 슬로게 행동 라서바 더솔 맥이 따네 맥딘세네 고나 초고르다 너는 아게 샘게 네 탑을 나 가래제나 초고르 샘데 네 투부요나 샘데 네 투부요 미나 가래제나 리거 마다
So this is how we need to try to kind of train the mind in meditation. And so in the beginning, that's not easy. Even though we know that this is how we need to do it, it's still not easy in the beginning. It's not easy because we don't really have an imprint of like a habitual.
Hello, Ina. We cannot hear you. Are you still there? Hi. I think Ina has a problem with her internet, so
meditation shene meditation
we wait a few minutes.
Everybody look to her name, just focus there.
Oh, I saw her out. So I think internet problem. So in the beginning, Rinpoche asked how many people meditate at home, and we saw about some people raise hands.
Hello?
Oh yeah, you're back. Okay, now we can.
I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, she's back, Rinpoche. Are you speaking? I think we still cannot hear. Hi, Ina.
Yeah?
Yeah, very unstable. Now we can, but just 2 seconds before cannot.
I'm sorry. Are you hear me now?
Okay, very good now. Thank you.
All right. So starting over again, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So now that you have understood what meditation is, and so even though you understand what meditation is, it's still not so easy in the beginning because we don't really have a lot of familiarity and we don't have this imprint. So it's not easy to learn something completely new that you haven't done before. That's always a little bit difficult in the beginning, right? So when you're first trying to learn how to write, it's in the beginning it's not easy, but then through learning and training, slowly you improve. And so it's possible that there are some people, of course, people are different. Some people might have an imprint from previous lives of meditation, and so for them, they might be able to meditate instantly because they already have this imprint. But then also, if our imprint of meditation from last lives is not so strong, then it's more difficult in the beginning to immediately grasp that the real essence of meditation. So first, we don't really understand what does it really mean to practice calm abiding. What does shamatha really mean? And then we begin to understand. We might understand that this is what it probably means. But then even though we understand that this is what it means, this is how it's done, then when it actually comes to doing it, when we sit down and actually put it into practice, it's still a little bit difficult. And so we need to make an effort to form a familiarity with it. So you need to try to find ways for the mind to abide calmly. So right now, currently my mind is constantly thinking about all kinds of things, all kinds of emotions always arising in the mind. So I have to find a way for that to calm down, for the mind to stay calm and still without all kinds of thoughts and emotions arising. And so for that, there are different methods to do that. And so there is the shamatha with support. So that shamatha with the support uses some kind of focal object as a support for the mind to abide calmly. Um, for example, when you hear this, you can also use a sound. For instance, when you hear the sound, the ringing sound of a bell, then that could be your focal support, your support for focus. So then you don't analyze the sound. You don't think about it in terms of, is it a nice sound? Is it an unpleasant sound? You don't think about the sound. You're just focusing on the sound as an object of focus and nothing else. And just use that as a way for the mind to just abide calmly. Without going anywhere else, without following any thought or focusing on any other object. So you just use the sound to try to abide single pointedly without any distraction, and then you just try to stay there. So for example, you can use a visual object that you use to focus on. You look at that object and then you stay there without distraction. Or you can use an object of the ears, a sound like the ringing of a bell, and then to try to use that object for your mind to abide calmly. So you need to, in brief, you need to find a way for your mind to abide calmly. And why is that important? It's because I don't really have any habit, any familiarity with meditation. And for this reason, because I have no familiarity, if I have no object of meditation, I will not be able to meditate calmly. For example, it's like a baby, an infant. Let's say a baby is like 5 or 6 months old. At that time, a baby can't just stand up and walk around. So the baby first tries. The baby crawls on both legs and both hands and tries to move forward that way. And then next, the baby goes maybe to a wall and like uses the wall as a support to slowly stand up. And then the baby walks along the wall, like using the wall as a support for its hands to learn how to get a feeling for walking. And then eventually that becomes easy. And so slowly the baby won't need the wall anymore. And it can just start slowly walking without the wall. And eventually it can just walk normally. So it's very similar to practicing shamatha. So first we use a support, which is like that wall. So first we need to kind of learn by like holding on to some kind of support, like the baby holding on to the wall. Because we don't have this imprint, we don't have the training of just practicing calm abiding like that. We have to form this habit first. And so for this reason, if we don't use any support, like any focal object, it will be hard for our mind to just abide calmly just like that, because we are used to having so many thoughts in our mind and we are always distracted. And that's why we first need some kind of a support that we use. And then slowly, when we gain some stability with that support, then we are able to extend the period. And then eventually we move from support to no support. And then we are able to meditate without any support. Just like a child one day doesn't need the wall anymore, can just walk without needing the wall. So this is how we practice shamatha. So there is shamatha with a support and without a support, or with an focal object or without. But it's all the same. The point is that you need to find a way to abide calmly. And so that's the most important point, whether you have an object or you have no object. But you must, by all means, abide calmly. If your mind, if you start to meditate and you're able to abide calmly for a short period of time, then you extend that period, so it becomes longer. So you can use any kind of object in the beginning, actually. When you're in your home, in your house, you can, for example, look out of the window and you can see a tree, for example. You can look at that tree or anything, any focal object, anything that you find that helps you to abide calmly, that is fine for an object. So basically, whatever supports you in abiding calmly is a suitable object, and whatever it is that makes your mind not be able to abide calmly is not a suitable object.
다 든데지 드는 가게 다 신의 곰시다 세계라다 신의 곰시다 든데지 가게 셈 서랑와드 요 드니 남도 마티발라 드니 베조시 든데지 곰 용어갑라 드니 남도 망부 제외 존르지 요다 남도 망부 저지 용요 버 존르지 오 당행운에 곰시에서 말이 단 남도 망부 제hen도 samya te ngal semtra la ya so yong go bas te ka che chi achok jamna chi nam to mang ro zon ro chi yong go yor ta te gom tri in di tene te gom ge nan te chung la ngan jin chi ge ma do a kare ri se na ta nga ge te gom ja shi in chi si go re se go ta 다 후만다 얘는 다 남도도 여레스 누만 남도도 여레데 남도도 나게 하고요 말이지 근데 하마와 제네티니 가서 다 남도 그 왕도 성전한다 트루 왕도 성전한다 든지진 라데 버레스 당에 곰장시 엔치시 다 곰직 럽병시 곰로도 다오 드닝에테 남도도 하고요 그래서 남도 당에 쫑든 두고요다 맨날 라진다고 지이나 라지되게 내 빠질 땅도 답지신도 뭐들 나찬들이 징도와 사면도지 든 라지되게 다 지랑 나찬들이도 다시 베티나이 다 남도 망보 유바트 하고 라지게 나차 유바 하고 이거도 라지게 나차 유바 하고야 돼 때 라디 좀 가야 말이스 라디 용띠는 띠네 좀 나사대 하고 소리 베티나이 당에 곰자시 따용 띠용띠는 띠네 내 생각당이 다 남도 하고 소리 띠 남도 망보달 하고 남도 들라다 곰자한테 들는 좀 트와스 그도 남주 춘루고래 그거다 트비지선장 야는 남도 지선장스 다 때랑하게 샘탈 가야 맞아베치 남도 가르치던 뒤지서야 만랑왔지 남도 지 마고와라 배저지 다다랑아 믹팅 공도 휴인바 믹부팅 믹팅 더솔라 때네 된 남도가 특부도에다 던지지나 되니 갈래 되니 서 남도도 때 용론로야 때서 센데만 내 틀로야 되니 갈래 나그 배저지나 되니 용고요레스 배는 안한테 뒤지되는 송을 삭힌 감감은 당보 레 당보 발라더니 쪼롱 그 쳤단다스 다 현에 당보 고민을 하고다 쪼롱 그 쳤으나 러저빙원이 쳐마 중요 거로 디나이 쳐 만족보 중요 거로 깨 차오 요러와 때나기 때니 샘거는 남도 발롱 축대바나기 요르스 샘 남도 빼 망보 요레스다 때니 티난 내 차자열 빼 갑레 커보 요레스 이나에 뜻네 탑시그리스 다데 네트벨 텐데 제가 그 매절 세나tin this net 바차요 그레스 Tate teni bezor sene nga montone gom jamne bezor se de bayina teni barde teni cho ganga tarjim babse teni rozabongoni ma chote ma sa tangla ma babse teni chote kale ma baburwas kale man royorwas pen tin nai teni sembe te net tahan namto pe mangbu namto chini ka ma to namto ndo 당한 배sor지 곰데 바텔티네 셈테스 네트바 차용거레스 드니 타마드니 춥틴 잠손나 밤니드니 춥틴의 잠손이 예미바 로치바 차서나이 드니 나기문에 현에든 배sor지 곰데 드니 텔레티네 드니 문에 나기 현에 곰타바 드니 셈 남도 그 쪽마라고 남도 그 뭐여와 남도 그 뭐여와 딩히다 만다르 드니 셈 띵은지를 드니 네트고요레스 대답 드는 가 남도 지해노 가 중인사리 논트 인사리 something 센터 마제비치 공히 유사만다 선드니 셈랑 안자야 마치베세 든 베조지 지다 간다치르와 미발라티 드니 든르 지 탐란자 드네야 참참 닝게야 보제거서 심지 탐제 닝게야 보제 러와 문에 나랑 까바드 딤바리 삼 심지 단더답 렘제 마히벤도 소 닝게 삼도소는 닝지지 참장하게 되니 소소 그 짜발라만 소와 타는데 먹이 용마치베 먹이지 되니 더소를 되니 되니 랑네 현에 곤타바 더소에 띵띵 핀토 연구 요사레스 마소디 가주 고마 그 라마 남파게다 곰잔 소 라마 먹이 코나라 되니 되니 생구되니 내로 하코토야 연구 요러와스 가레진 하고 있다 라면신랍 생은 유버 효스 라면신라 생은 요 근데 가레 연거르스나 나게 생고들이다 너 뇨문 받더니 남도 차당도 망가 연거로 드니 때 중종은 중종 먼토는 다 현에 고토 받더니 사자 침보때 가레 똑같이 드니 연거 요사로 와스 어때 나한테 드니 때 답더니 배tor지네 배tor지 드니 탑 강라 간다스 드니 지고레스
And so now, we try to meditate in whichever way you can for the mind to abide calmly. So you must try to achieve a state where you're not thinking about anything. And so then sometimes in the beginning, though, it seems that, in fact, when I'm meditating, that's when I'm having even more thoughts. So it seems that thoughts are actually increasing when you're meditating. And so then you might begin to worry about it and think that maybe I don't know how to meditate. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, because now I'm having even more thoughts than before. So then don't worry about that at all. So there's no need to push yourself to have no thoughts at all and then worry about them when you have thoughts, because when you see all these thoughts, that's actually not a fault at all, because now you're finally recognizing your thoughts, and in fact that's a sign that you are starting to learn what meditation really means, because before you also had those thoughts but you didn't recognize them. So before we meditated, we were sort of left in a constant state of affliction, a state of delusion. And now you're learning how to meditate. So now when I'm learning how to meditate, I'm starting to recognize the thoughts in my mind. And actually, this is the first step in eliminating all these faults of grasping thoughts. For example, when a sick person goes to see a doctor, then the doctor examines the person and then diagnoses the person and says, oh, he has this disease. So it's really similar to that. When you're recognizing your thoughts, it's like you're analyzing your mind and you're kind of diagnosing your mind, you're recognizing all these thoughts. So the doctor recognizes the disease, but that is not the fault of the doctor. Actually, it's a good quality of the doctor because he recognizes the disease. So when you know how to meditate, when you learn how to meditate, you become like this doctor who begins to see and recognize the fault within the mind, the many thoughts within the mind. And that's actually a good quality. So because normally we always follow our delusions and our thoughts. And when you recognize them, then that's actually a good thing. And so don't worry about that. Just don't try not to follow these thoughts that arise within the mind. As you mentioned before, as a support, you can use any kind of focal object. And you try different focal objects and see, does that help me to stop the thinking mind? And so slowly, as you keep kind of testing different methods, slowly you kind of get used to it. And slowly the afflictive emotions will become a little bit lesser. The thinking will become a little bit lesser. And just little by little, the mind then trains to abide calmly. And this comes through having made an effort. In the Ganges Mahamudra text, it says, in the beginning, when you first practice meditation, in the beginning, the mind is like a waterfall and fiercely gushing down a mountain. And so a waterfall, when it first flows down from the mountain, it falls down quickly and makes a really loud noise. So that is when in the beginning the mind is disturbed by these turbulent waves of thoughts and afflictions. There's so many thoughts in the mind all the time. And so at that time, you try to find ways for your mind to abide calm. And then slowly, you will be able to calm down the mind more and more as you keep making this effort and continue to practice. So more and more, you will be able to stay in a more focused state. And then you try to continue it on in this state as long as you can. So then it says in the middle, the mind is like the river Ganges flowing gently. So once the waterfall has arrived down on the in the valley, then it no longer gushes down fiercely or violently, but then it becomes a river and it flows very gently, it flows slowly. So that's the second step. The mind has become a little bit calm, able to abide a little bit more. And sometimes you're able to abide, but then so sometimes you still can't really stop all kinds of thoughts. But you're able to abide a little bit more. So the thoughts are less fierce, less intense. And then you keep practicing, and then it says in the end, the mind is just like all these rivers converging into the ocean. So in the end, all these gently flowing rivers, they converge into the ocean. And once they merge with the ocean water, they become of one flavor, one taste with all the other water. So then the mind becomes still, like a still ocean. And so then in the end, you really know how to meditate. So when you meditate, you must never separate from mindfulness, and you achieve a state of samadhi in the end, where the mind is never disturbed, the mind is unmoving, completely tranquil, completely still. But so now in the beginning, when all kinds of thoughts still arise, don't view them as a fault. Don't see this as a fault. Don't worry about it, and don't be afraid of meditation that this arises when you meditate. You just do your best in making your best effort, the best you can, and by applying whatever object, whatever support suits you the best. And then also sometimes cultivate compassion for all sentient beings and think that I'm really very fortunate actually, because all these other sentient beings, they are ignorant of karma. So feel compassion for them. And also sometimes supplicate to the root guru with great devotion. Actually, devotion should really always be in your mind. That really will be of the greatest benefit for your mind to calm down and stay in a calm, tranquil state. Actually, that's what the past Kagyu masters have done. It is that the past Kagyu masters mainly have realized the nature of the mind through guru devotion. And that's because the Guru's blessings enter our mind if we have devotion to the Guru. So through devotion, if your devotion is strong, then that has the power to stop all kinds of other thoughts of attachment and anger and so on. So therefore, if you keep going, if you continue on in devotion, you sustain such a state of devotion, then slowly from that actually will arise a realization of Mahamudra. So in this way, in these ways, you have to make an effort and do your best and try your best way for your mind to abide calm.
띵인지 쭈미바 히바네 손도 띵인지 쭈미바 세다 히네 곰라 히네 쭈미바들 다 간디지 히네 칭이바 간디지 리스나스 셈 남도 그 모여와 모도 방한테 드니 째직드네 바탕스 다 드니지 세션에 곰데 드니 셈나 남도 강 마이 남도 그 마이네 드니 디테나 드니 째직드 드니 모도 방한테 모도 바스 남도 미 방한테 드니 째직드네 바탕스 대직 데라 단차당 델말 데라 단차 sarcha ngata dimba he sona hene je tingzin chingi dimba he jula kipa yin las dela tancha sarcha seyate ta ngana su dara gonde hende tinhi de la gogo da semde ma hajang ke senghin muwa ya mai ro teni yang tinhi yu de pa timba yu de timba se de nga hene gong yu ba nga ha ko to ba 남도 연락 주시나 양 되게 말다야 신의 공도 도르드는가 신의 공 유파 잠지다 대 잠지 팀바고 하다 되는 거 sarcha스 sarchang adin dim바히 소나 신의 제 띵지 친이의 dim바히 줄을 기파인스 다 대답이나 되니 신의 띵지 날 신의 단 친이 받은 날 되니 깨요레스 다 대참망하게 셈다 공도 휴대바 Dona semla motopa rwa hajang thum ma songwa singmo go wang da ya ma songwa hajang gu jin chobu wang da ya ma songwa ta tinhi da ma da wa nga de nga ge semde ne thubu yu na ta tingjin chini cha de yo re so
And so now, and there are different faults that can arise in our samadhi, which is our state of meditative concentration. And so shamatha must be free of these faults. So what is the authentic, the perfect shamatha state? So it is said that it is a state that is unmoved from all thoughts. It is a non-conceptual state that abides single-pointedly. And so when you practice shamatha, have to be unmoved by any thought means to not think about anything, but to stay single-pointedly. So you stay within a non-conceptual state single-pointedly. That is like the first point. And then secondly, then within that non-conceptual single-pointed state, that single-pointed non-conceptual state also must have an aspect of clarity, an aspect of vividness, of kind of a sharp clarity. And that is the authentic, the true meditative state of concentration, of shamatha. So this aspect of sharp clarity, that is mindfulness, basically. When the mind is very sharp and clear, then you will not fall into the fault of sleepiness and mental unclarity. So you're mindful of your meditation. You know that you're meditating within a calm state. And you're able to stay within that, and you're mindful of it, and also you're unmoving from it. You stay within that single-pointedly without thinking about anything at all. So this is the like the defining characteristic of an authentic state of shamatha. So you need to have the single pointedness as well as an aspect of clarity that is mindful of the fact that you are meditating. You know, I am in a state of, I am meditating. So that is concentration. Concentration also possesses an aspect of a complete clarity on what you are doing. You know that you are meditating and you are not conceptualizing it. So in that way, you stay free of the two faults of meditation. So you do not fall into a state of sleepiness and mental dullness, but also you do not go into a state of agitation or restlessness, many thoughts. You just abide within that state of calm that is clear. So that is the kind of defining characteristic of shamatha.
Oh yeah, that ngaranso shine to zamche ngaranso teni tren timi ngaranso tinje me timi pa ngane teni ngaranso shine gomya yins ta shine gonde tambo lu namnan chudun se ya teni titena changma teni lu lu ngaranso teni rawap de yas tan dordena lu shige yagor yang kashi lu de hajang chozogolo pe dorje chudum to cha pe shi kable te yu sa tendre ya ma yin ba lu de lu ya lu de ro yena ya khatsan kongdu shi ba na dara china dara lam de gi ti namnang chudun de re gi na ma lab ya na de gi do teni namnang chudun de shi ya de teni lu de teni lu ya lu chi de teni te tena teni semyang lu si ro ngala tene mitin kanya me yena ya sengwe tene namdo kanya ma chebechi ro goms mi te yangs mi se ya titsik te samda goms mi se ya gom duju mikpa chi kanya yo mares yena ya sen mayang ba gores karil mayang gores sen hyowar ne gores sen mayang ba judu hyowar ne de tini tite na de gores
So now today when we are practicing shamatha, we are practicing shamatha so this time without a support. And so that is without any focal object. And so for that, first of all, as you mentioned before, the mind should be in a state of complete relaxation, and also the body should be in a state of complete relaxation. So we've mentioned the other day, there are the 7 points of regarding the physical posture. There are the 7 points of Vairocana. So again, these are, so you are sitting in a cross-legged posture, and then you have your hands in the meditation gesture, and your back, your spine is kept straight, and then your throat, your chin is slightly tucked in, and your shoulders are expanded, like your upper arms are expanded. Then your eyes are dropped to the nose level, and the tongue is slightly curled upward toward your palate. So that is, in this way, you are kind of assuming the posture of the body, but also the body should be in a relaxed state. So you shouldn't really like force yourself, push yourself into a really uncomfortable position, because like it said, you should place yourself in the, for example, your legs in the cross-legged Vajra posture. So you shouldn't it shouldn't create you any like difficulty, any discomfort. So the body should still be relaxed. So you perform the posture in such a way that the body is still relaxed, and then likewise the mind has to be relaxed. So body and mind both are kind of settling in a natural state, a relaxed state. And so then you try to abide within that state calmly, and just stay within this kind of loosely relaxed physical and mental state of calm.
Oh yeah, tini kamangala gomja ins. Kamangala gomja and make some madevache. Make nazela tekala tagdos naktela tane. Tini make the hatang dang telepe shuk chimbo penganzo kalaguta inki kenderson focus no chigo mare. May matsamacherewa. Nordina lulu jide sem lulu dena mayang lulu make it lulu lemdo.
And so now we're going to meditate on this for about 5 minutes. And so at that time, don't close your eyes and just direct your gaze, your eyes towards the level of the tip of your nose. Also, you don't have to, like sometimes as people do, like kind of stare like with wide open eyes. So there's no need to like have this intense focus with your eyes. But more relax your gaze. So just like when your body is relaxed and your mind is relaxed, then naturally your eyes also will like relax and kind of naturally fall to this level of the tip of the nose.
Man's gong chuna hit drum loose in ishe. Drums and hatchang pe hui shuk no jamnerwa. Hui pe tele focus in the hui cheneta. Rekpa hatchang te chesona te drums. Te yang chunre. Loose in it in hatchang pe. Any ko semnania, tinshi ko nyamdo. Tinshi and yam ma pe tom chasona te yang to go mare. Kony rimparchitin rogores. And then the Nidara Hine gom the Hajangachi semde Shivich drum de Pamaimba Riva Lulu in that.
So there's those two faults of meditation, and that is and too intense focus and too relaxed. So when you're meditating, you shouldn't be too focused, not to have such an intense focus. So the awareness shouldn't be like really super tight and intense. So that is actually also a fault and kind of over focusing. The mind should be relaxed, but not too relaxed. So not so relaxed that you lose all your focus, that you lose all your awareness, your mindfulness. So when you lose your mindfulness completely, then the mind becomes a kind of really in a dull, unaware state. So that's also a fault of meditation. So you kind of need to find kind of a way in between too much focus and too much loosening. So this is how you should practice on shamatha. Relaxed, but without too much relaxation and without too much focus.
Drum seate Nanso Ripa Drungur Lagudo, Leka Kichimbolem, the Ripa Drum Lagudo, Ripa Drungurs, Penang Hanso, Tara Moda Tansa Land, the Moda Juk Moda Tara Lactulia, the Moda Juk Yikte Tango, then huge Ripa Dungur or Moda Time. Then date of Goma. Date I was in a Ripa Hatchang drum chain, the Namton and Rondos. Then you take Kable and pay Kagure. Then Ramayan Betch Lulu chain das. In a yinga you maris.
So focus is, we often say you should focus your mind, focus your awareness. For example, when you're doing something really important, then we have to concentrate on that. We have to completely focus on that. For example, if you're taking your driver's license test, when you have your test for getting your driver's license, you need to focus really intensely. You need to really concentrate. So we don't need to go that far. We don't want to concentrate that intensely when we meditate. So we don't want to focus so much, because we have to kind of calm down the mind, because the thing is that when we focus too much, actually it leads to thinking and thoughts arise in the mind, and also it will just make us tired. It's exhausting. And so don't focus on too much, but also don't be distracted.
Ayata trawa mangbo yusari yang ngaran su trawa lenja chin kasarwa.
There probably are a lot of questions, so maybe we start with the questions now, so there's enough time.
Okay, thank you, Ina. So Rinpoche, I think we have several questions about the eye opening or closing while we meditating. So I will summarize this. So do we keep our eye open always during the meditation? Is it better to keep our eye open or half open? And another question is, if we keep our eye open, then can we blink? Or can I close my eye? Because when I open, I can't help but blinking very much. So thank you. It's just all about the eye opening or closing. Can you advise?
Tambo della di mik della ra mik di kanda sigore pena dang so mik tangorwa tini mik seka tabo tangorwe tini kisi mik seka tabo tangna yang tini chamchan tine mik tikhanna gore kambocha go yorwa tini kambocha na tini na ti chegora khanna gore tini chegora tini tini samsan mik somna yang kagari kainsin mik somna yang kambochaga mari mik tangna kambochaga dine tapatina yogo yoram tini kanasi gore mik
대지들
somna jigere
저당 그 공간은 안서 곰 창만은 맥게 따고 사장냐 송시 아 드니 라바당 안서 티 남남 추든 시엔데 맥 나zel라 테솔라 따람도 맥 나즈 테솔라 따람도 아 데인데 드니 맥 하장 당고마 데 가레체네테 리세나스 아 나랑 맥데 좀 somna 데스 히네 곰틀리 핀토 요래 핀토 요래데 참자 때에서 나랑 생목세 저 때에서 용식이 tumtum chaya teni kayor teni chira hine yapu gom shu yona teni chira mekta na chogu yore tsumna chogu teni nga chimbo mare chita nga ki tara koryo la yan chiksam tangur koryo nga nga zo tara tam mekin ra zung ra mara mantong sa chi pe ne wimba ro yina teni mekte na pe yakbo yore teni yang ching koryo pe ma mambu pasan ro teni ro da teni chi 마보는 통두고 요나 때문에 make this 좀네 this same nearly finger is 그 갑토 내당다 갑토 내당랑라다 지든 송요왕 안한테 다르디 강사치 강가나다네 따땅땅네 샘진 담마예 릭방랑라만에 바드 쭝세지 요 도르스디나 마게 생근네 탑let니 가르치네 약도 로와 나게 되니 따땅다 생근 진땅 드니 롱 양음다마 땅땅도 가래지네 드니 약도나 드니 때나 드니 나게 셈 네트보다는 대체네 약을
So generally speaking, it is said when we meditate that we should have our eyes slightly open, as we just mentioned in a 7-point posture of Vairocana, that the gaze, the eyes should not kind of drop to the level of the tip of the nose, so kind of drop down, so slightly open. So we shouldn't like kind of have the eyes open widely, just slightly and kind of directed toward a lower part of the nose. However, so what's the reason for that? So generally, there could be a benefit for shamatha also having your eyes closed. But then there's a danger that you lose your clarity, that you become dull and sleepy. Of course, if you already are really familiar with meditation, you can meditate either way, then it's of course fine to also close your eyes. Then it really doesn't make a big difference. And also, it depends on your surrounding. So if you're at the isolated place all by yourself and there is no other people around and there's not a lot of like things happening around you, it's very calm, and also there's not much you hear and so on. So it's a very calm place. Then it is better to actually have your eyes open in this way, not slightly open toward the nose. But then if you're in a surrounding a place where there are maybe a lot of people and there's a lot of activity happening and you maybe hear and see different things, then it might be, in this case, sometimes better to even close your eyes. So you have to see what kind of circumstance you're in and then really apply whatever method is best for that particular circumstance. In the Ganges Mahamudra, also it says that you should apply various methods of gazing, of mind, like a mind abiding and wind retaining and so on. So basically what it means is that applying various methods means that you have to see what works best for you in any given circumstance. So you have to see what kind of focal object works best as your mental method, or what kind of gaze for your kind of physical posture, and how you train with your winds and so on. So basically, whatever you find is the most helpful for your mind to abide still, that's the best method for you.
Thank you. So the question 2 is, how many sessions should I practice every day, or should I keep mindfulness in every action of the day? Which way is better? Thank you.
Teni nima rere, teni tun katsu gomga nyaring gogo yores, yana di tun masong mase teni di kati ina motu ina lega kare chulam kabla lega kare ina kare chene yang teni teti da motu ina denshi kyo yang diyan tiki res, yana inchi minchi tun da wasongo rere.
Chirang tingshi zong tukuyo na, ten tingshi tena nede, te rang re tun. Ngana tun zong seya chidwa, ngana tun zong seya te, tako gom jayang, kama ngas, kama chiyas, yana kama simchas, chusu chiyas, nga su gom jagar, tun zong kuyo, kare tun zong kuyo, tingshi rang tena nga su gom jagar. Tene chirang tapar, jumpar, chulam kala, tene tingshi zong tukuyo na, te pe ya pore, ten te ya se yo ma re se.
So if you're able to sustain mindfulness at all times, that itself is meditation. So when we speak about holding meditation sessions, that when we say, like, for example, you should meditate for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, what we really do in that time is we are training the mind and sustaining mindfulness. That's meditation. So if you're able to sustain mindfulness all the time, if you're always mindful in all your activities, then that is meditation. There's actually nothing, there's no better meditation than that.
Question 3, how do I know that I have entered samadhi or I achieved the level of one-pointedness? What are the signs of achieving samadhi in Shine meditation?
Tini ta nga tinge chinki song se ki tak se khare res pena chechik rimba de la leptu tini de la tak khare yores nga khana sa ko yore pena shine ki tinge chin ena chechik the top songs tak khare res khana sa ko re.
Penna chirang dorji dinan rogu yona, teni dorji dinan rone, teni ko dorji dinan lepsonan chudin dun lepson, oh tanga dorji dinan lepson asam ko doasi. Te na yeri, ngarang so, sem teni tara namdo ke mayi pa tsikik te teni ne tuku yona, teni te kheneri yisi. Ta chirang ke sem tsikik te teni namdo ke mayi pa che, rwa tinghi ta mandarwa, namdo ke mayi pa ngana ne tuku yona, ta te chirang khene.
For example, if you want to go to Bodh Gaya, and then you arrive in Bodh Gaya and you see the stupa, then you think, now I have arrived in Bodh Gaya. So then you think that you know in your mind, now I have arrived in Bodh Gaya because it's right there in front of you. And so similarly, Shamatha, the samadhi of Shamatha, one-pointedness, is when you are able to abide single-pointedly, that is without any thought, without a mind being disturbed by any thought, never losing your mindfulness. If you're able to always continue in that state, that's shamatha. It's a samadhi of shamatha. So that's then you know that you have arrived at that state of shamatha or single-pointedness. So that's something that you know from your own experience of your own mind.
So questions 4, how to breathe during meditation. So we use belly or chest breathing techniques.
Teni kom gyapto teni lung khare chigo res pena tena lung sintap khashi yora pena khokpa na lung siya yana ti pango yora ba lowa na ta pango na lung siya thapshi damen da yosare teni kom gyapto teni lung simba thap khare go res.
Tara hine gom de nga so long gom ya tara te sungu do ate song de nga ge long ge ya ngom ro ngom ku ba na ya ngom teni te zona ma zona ya long de ma tang teni long de teni ngu ku yu ba te nga ge ha ko cham chi ma long de solo le tang yo wa te ha ko cham ta teni chene teni te la mi pa te ne de na ta te ko nga so tara hine long zone teni hine gom tap chi ri do se
Also, it is also taught that there's a way to, one method to practice shamatha is through the breath or the winds. And so that is when you're inhaling the air, you have an awareness of inhaling the air and it goes into your belly, and then you are retaining it there for a little while. And if you can't retain it, can't hold it, then you're exhaling the air. And there is the only thing that really happens here is that there is an awareness that I know that I'm inhaling. You're aware of the inhale, and you are aware of the exhale. The air is going out now. So you're just basically using that as a focal support, as the inhale and the exhale, the flow of the breath. So that's one method of practicing shamatha.
teni yang kakhe ya long ya che ni somsin tidok de jak yo sares te inji mi ji go tidok de inji mi ji go yo na sam go dos kares te ko te nam to ge cha ji re che lep so a ni ri so a som sa te ko tidok yang do sem nam tidok yang go do as tene ma yin bichi ya long de ngob yong de ya ngom de ngob ko yo pa tan chor zam ji ma tang yong wa yin de tang yong choa zam ji tang a ge te 생기 고 맥바가 띵 삼게 마도 휴지 살보트는 거 말해. 빈식은 초를 짠지고도 왔어.
There are maybe a few, some people might, when they use the breath as a support for meditation, maybe some people are counting their breath. So as you're inhaling and exhaling, they count like 1 and 2 breaths, 3 breaths. But I wonder if that's actually a good thing to do, because if you count the breath, the counting actually is an aspect of thinking. So there is some thinking happening there if you're counting something. So because otherwise, how can you count? So you're thinking, so now I had one thought, one breath, that's one thought, right? And then I have, now that's number 2 and that's number 3. So you're counting, and counting is thinking. So it's maybe better not to count the breath, because then there's really no thinking. So mainly you just have a mere awareness. You just recognize, you're noticing I'm inhaling and you're noticing I'm exhaling. So there is a mere noticing. You just notice that you're inhaling and exhaling. And that alone becomes your object of the focus, your support. So you don't have to get too overly clear on the breath too. So you just need to sustain a state of mindfulness.
There's a question relating to the breath also, so I read it here. Can we breathing through the mouth, and where should the placement of the tongue on the palate be exactly?
Tini tere anti lung son trawa yore. Tini lung ngup tan tangwe kapla tini nabon ngup kore, yana khan ngup kore. Tini nipa ne, tini che di ken la ya gora. Tini khana sho gore che di ken khana sho gore soksa.
나온 데야 뭐야 돼 나오는 거 도와시. 되니 제데 야낀 야낀 야톡 잠진 거다. 야낀라. 야낀 인질 갈라 그래.
Palate.
Just touch palate. Listen.
Yeah. So the inhalation and the sort of breathing occurs through the nose, not the mouth, it's through the nose. And yeah, so as Rinpoche said, you're just slightly touching the tongue on the palate.
That's all like Rama so sure Rama bia labur. That's all yanko Rama la yagul man he de la yanko mikban ro shin shiviji de la chizoglo tabon ro tan go man tuk samchikta.
So regarding the tongue, it is also said that the teeth and the lips have to be in a relaxed, a natural position. So that means you shouldn't actually like forcefully have these like uncomfortable, forceful, kind of unnatural movement of your tongue. It's just a mere like a slight touch.
So questions 5. Can I lean back on the wall during sitting meditation, meaning I can keep my spine straight?
Tini the gap the tango yorba tamo tanken gore. Tini gom gap to tini kyang yorba the kyang la da den choge reves. Ina kyang la tena ten chiyo na gap la ra. Tini ki the tambo hachang tambo yang meba da ba chagre. Tini dige reve tambo tanken yang mari.
다 야보 전에 지랑 잡띵고 말에 마티네 야그래. 그래서 잡띵에 때스코 zubo 니라 zubo 때스 많이 드네 때 스쳐서로 당가는 요라 그러다 그래 레진의 말이 인치 나노네. 때스 건데와 띵띵 요르다. 따라 벤나 집주 말아래 받아서 곰잠 디코 잡니 돼서 개요 말이. 타나코 급딩이요 말이. 벤나 가나서 따라 garchi는 뭐지 차이야나 따라 곰로 자치 잡지려와. 잡사니는 니 맞다. 너게 육특할 가서 육특할라 코는 욕 가치시는데 지난 답지제를 지나하고 잡치니 띵 말이. 내가지 띵띵 요다. 가르치는 zu보도 갑토 내게도 와. 갑토 내나 되니 짜단 롱당 셈 코란은 레와 요고 요서리. 배는 안 잡카토 되는 되니 짜장 류장나 짜장. 짜장나 롱장나 되니 셈때 라왑 네트고요. 손 고시반나 들도와시. 다 양소 zu볼 데워트는 양도서 강이 요나 되니 때서 잠히나야 만들고 개요 말해서.
So if you're really trying to do it, the way it's supposed to be done, it's better not to have any back support at all, because when you're leaning back, you're kind of going to a kind of a relaxed state, which definitely is a little bit connected to laziness actually, and so you're just trying to be comfortable. Milarepa, for example, he had no back support at all. Not even he even didn't have a cushion to sit on. He had nothing at all. Or when you think of Garchen Rinpoche, for example, Garchen Rinpoche is 84 years old now, and Garchen Rinpoche doesn't use any back support at all. Now look, pay some attention next time when Rinpoche gives teachings. When you look at him and he teaches, he never leans back and sits in this kind of leaned back, comfortable position. He always sits completely straight. And that definitely is an important point here. And there's a reason for him doing that. And for having the back completely straight and not using a support. Because the straight back is connected to our channels and winds. It is said that in the scriptures, it is said that when the body is straight, then the channels are straight. And when the channels are straight, the winds move straight. And then the mind, when the winds move in this straight way, then the mind can abide in a natural, calm, relaxed state. And of course, so that's generally speaking, but of course, if you are physically unwell and if it creates you a really pain or a really great hardship, then of course there's nothing wrong with leaning back a little bit.
Long time rikpa ne babs, not the babes.
When the winds are straight, and then awareness settles in the natural state.
Question 6. Can I be half naked or wearing short while meditating? If I meditate in a messy, not so clean place, is this a fall?
There's two questions, right? Basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Then Giovanni to tambo tela. Then gom gyaptu. Then pena kuze dulo mambo makana digeres. Pena the yoro the kutung happy tung yoro tung dabo. Then kona chogeres. The kuze mambo makana digeres. Then nine then nga gom gyapsa ki sachati kote zam nyabya nyobata bo tangma mebada bo ina digeres.
Chira tulon tubo kona ndigido, tulo chap kona ndigido. Mala repa tulo mambu konde yo mana re kuchingsi. Tulo chepa kanya mando. Teni gom jas sacha de chetan ko gom jas satsangma yin nga semde teni ne thyal pin song sung yor. Koryo ke ten tes heba yores. Yin yan chiran ta desa la ko nyawe nyowen re yu tapshi mina teni ndige yore chiran sen ne tugo na ndigidos.
So it really doesn't matter at all what you're wearing. So whether you're wearing really thick and a lot of clothes, or whether your clothes are very you don't have a lot of clothes on. It doesn't really matter. For example, Milarepa, he didn't have a lot of clothes. He just had a cotton cloth and nothing else. So the amount or kind of clothing you're wearing doesn't make a difference at all. Regarding the place, if it's messy or clean, so there are instructions on the perfect surrounding, and it does say in the teachings that it is beneficial if it's conducive to your meditation if the place is clean. But then if for some reason that's just how it is and there's nothing you can do about it, and you can still meditate, then there's nothing wrong with it too, as long as you are able to focus your mind.
Question 4. I try to focus by looking intensely at the object, but can only do this for a couple of seconds, and then I will quickly fall asleep. So what should I do?
Teni di mikpe ten da boki shonara, teni tsamti teni rikpa dream teni kan lagore mikita tang dream thuki yore, yina yang yun rimbo ki dream thuki yore kacha khashe madok, teni lamsang ni khundo gore, teni khashi gore.
Ni korodana chiran ya tenhiti ni khu machi rawa chiran pe tamjo ju milurum bochi to ngarang ne tereng tongda dim pe leka cha chimbo ji ji indi ni khu yung dana ni khu machi rawa tenshi ya ni so rawa tani ta dong tenshi ni so to ma dana tani khor dong hala samno tang mata pa la samno tang ni song dong hala samno tang rang sem lamsa ni se.
So if you're getting sleepy, if you're falling asleep, you have to bring back your mindfulness and make sure you don't fall asleep. And also think that now I have a precious human body. This is a very meaningful activity. And if you see the meaningful activity, then if you see the meaning in this activity, then you will have enough mindfulness not to fall asleep. But if you still fall asleep, then you should think about the suffering of samsara and think about the impermanence of this life. Think about the suffering of the 3 lower realms. If you think about that, then you will wake up immediately.
Tani china mantune di gonja koris besor chi koris.
And so then you have to make an effort to meditate continuously, go on in the meditation.
question next. Gajen Rinpoche talked about the Ahung Benza recitation practice. Is this also a Shine meditation? I mean, with an object, a focus, and can I practice this instead?
Then the channel te gom to chiram ikpa zong tamne Rinpoche song ana yi chin ikpa zong tamne gom tam te pe ya bores and rigores.
Kind of mixing is in the chakra yorove.
Re, tere.
Yeah, so
Chipa tes don samsa yan ti tewala tene me gom ya. Ta so ina ko tumo dan yan rewa tes yungu yusar was. Ina ko tan dona hine ki chanda ore ya.
So if you're able to practice it the way Rinpoche explains, then that is fine. You can use that as a shamatha, and then yes, it will become a shamatha with the support, generally speaking. But also there are some slight differences. Sometimes when we visualize you meditate on the fire flame at the navel, then that also could be related to the tumo practice. But just generally speaking, it could also be just a quality, an aspect of shamatha.
The next questions. So when the mind focus on one object, then the third eye will be open and activated. Is that correct?
Denis sem di mikpe den la chechik du ne sona dening anso di minsam la yang mik yor la yor ba mik sumba la yor ba deni mik sumba di mikcho na miksam gi mik di ra deni se ka sen do re mik sen do re
Ha kom harida. Kaze.
di
Minsan me
kaso chilla ke yore kaso di pena yoga gom kendi yore ba ina nganso mik yore tena sherap ki hishi ki mik yore la ke mik sumba la ke third eye la ke ina yore minsam la teni ti minsam ti mik ti chena teni hishi ki mik chen do nganso la ke yore ra teni shine ki mikten ki shine kom sona teni apo kom sona teni minsam ki chen sumba te hishi ki chen de ra teni kasten do re open do ang do re
te nga tsu tara nangba ke nane te so che mixum te so mixer chi shige o mara che na nga tsu yishi mek segiri yishi ki mek seya te kare shige o se na nga ke dami to pa tawa ki endi tini tela nga tsu ta dami to yo wane tini kol ta yishi mek la nan de gore nga nga tsu yishi lam na te dami pe ne lok ton to pa yina tini tela shige yore ma to kor nga nga tsu jikti tara sha chal to pa mek ji yore wa tara mek chi ni do mek ye yung ti paru mek simba se chi te yung ko yo ma re sa te nan chu ko yo na he mo da nga zo 20 la ta so te mek ji do mek sim yung do te kare ji la khran so da mi da yo ma re se ti tong da te ng da
So in Buddhism doesn't really speak about like the third eye, maybe the way now we speak in like in other circumstances. So we don't really speak about the third eye, but we speak about the wisdom eye, and that is between the eyebrows. But what it represents, this wisdom eye, is the realization of selflessness. So when you realize that, then your true nature is selfless. That's what we call like the opening of the wisdom eye. But it's not like we don't say that there's like a third eye, as in, first we have the left and the right eye, so the two eyes which are of like flesh material substantial eyes, and then in addition to that we have another eye, a third eye, which is here. So Buddhism doesn't speak about it in terms of this like in a physical sense, but we do say that the wisdom deities possess three eyes. So they have one eye here and the point between your eyebrows, but this is a symbol and it represents their realization of selflessness.
Dami to hirap tin kono musas hirap ji yore tel tin damek de pen ro ji he yore sa tongda ngama do de na 다 담이 또 히랍 또 되어레스 된 총질을 드니 맥심 심바된 것도 왔어요.
So it is a special kind of wisdom. It is the wisdom that realizes selflessness. And the eye here, the third eye, so to speak, is just a symbol of that. So it is again an illustration, as a symbol of having realized the nature of selflessness. So it's not like a real third eye, it's just symbolic of having realized that.
That the makes somebody now so hene gomnete yungu yoresena hirap ke mekde yungu yomare. Ta ngaran so sani dunta yomatini lamtong tantini tara sakin kone tini tutsu gomde ha ko tini tutso nyamne se ne tini dami topa tawa chena tini hirap ke me se ate topa yores.
Also regarding the question of whether this so-called third eye is opened during Shamatha meditation, so this wisdom eye is not open during Shamatha. That actually happens when what we will talk about next week. We talk about Vipassana and about Mahamudra. So through the practice of Vipassana and Mahamudra, when the realization of selflessness arises, this is what we call you gain or you open the eyes of wisdom.
The next question, can we meditate in this place, remote place, like in the wilderness, the mountainous areas, etc.? Because people said that the energies there is not good for beginners. There's a ghost or something.
Then also late tambo, but then sawensa la me chunne mesa pena rigang la da wo yo rawang then me mesa la komna yapo to is kain sana me khasha kilamne then le tambo wa dela kom kamna yapo shira mendo kain sana dela di pena ninsa la then when la then lande ni day damenda yore khanda to so le tambo wa tena komna yapo de
Chutta
Kim karang kim mendo kim mendo ada to
아란서 달래 담보 빠이나 되네 저다 내 윈바 리나 다 승차 민조로와 디스토핑 진이 민조 근데 이나 되네 야보리 송고 다 이나 사철 체여로와 카케르 테스 란데 테소 다야 아르체타니 테소 유시기로와 근데 너디 이나야 내 담보 빠리 시다 야보 유사마리 근데 안타 니나 요로와 근데 곰자 두고 마다 이나야 다 사자페 냠보 사냐 냠보 내 윈바 이쪽에나 빼야
So for beginning practitioners, actually it is said that it is good to be in an isolated place where there's not a lot of disturbance. But of course there is a difference, it depends on the place. Of course there are places where you have a lot of ghosts and demons that could cause obstacles. And so these kind of places are not really so good for beginning practitioners, because then if you are in such a place, you will be afraid and you feel uncomfortable, so you can't really meditate then. So, but if it is an isolated place that is a really gentle and peaceful, then it's actually an excellent place for meditation.
Oh. What was it?
No question?
Yeah, I think there are around more than 10 questions. Should we can answer one or two more, or we will leave it for next session?
Oh, no, it's better. Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear it very clearly.
Yeah, I think there are more than 10 questions. So Rinpoche, we have time for 1 or 2 questions, or we will move it to next section?
Okay, just one question.
Okay. So the last questions for today. When we meditate, sometimes there are many thoughts arise and sometimes we feel numb. So what is the antidote to selfishness and restlessness?
항상 검 겹든 남도 빼 뭐뭐기지 여레스 양 참참라 빼 저번 매바다 뭐 그래 샘 빈로 여라다 this kind of 톰톰라 버차거든 되니 데라 님포 뭐 칸다고 그리 빼나다 빼 뇽레 야나 빼 구바 쳔보 남도 mambo 니가 라더니 님포 가래고 그리스 싱글 니카라
다고 샘데 하장 되니 남도 망보 제용이나 봐. 남도 망보 제용이나 되니 나도 따라 대스만 매 쯤나야 되고 쯤니고 그게 다. 야 되니 매 하장 친구마다 되니 mikpa king the sola sente eta sola sente ma sen lu mat ya indigenous and that's a chain and the central mazi or central mazi then sente ta haja mong da na mong pe shiba sarvo jin min de ma thom thom cha ga da na then tara kong di shiba na pe schedule lo tara ko nonga to so sam ta ma te sin ji ge ini ngate shiba ya sa ro chai shiba te ya sa yi ini dadong juni tu me da na samsa pe nam to gu bu den samsa ta pe thom thom cha den ni da na ti tu khali jewa khawali yuri sin na te jewa te nga ko tara na la dip chim bo ta re la dip chim bo yin sa de ni shiba pe gom ya ma ba jum lo ta no dum jum lo ini control yang cuba mampu tu benar dan cuti lah sebab orang jah ini sosu tahu lama lah soan deh depa tanah kita yang bercerci ini sendiri kami minggu pegom yang segom sendiri minggu mana tu sampah seni minggu seni juga tu coya pegom tu tunggu masih gom mana yang bercerci 근데 걔는 띵하고 레그 드바야 다 레그 드바 다 용하이나 띵이 가도 신의 공통도 있다 근데 양 배쳤지 근데 걔는 띵이 인기 같은 거 있어
So when a lot of thoughts arise in the mind, when the mind is really agitated, restless, then you can actually close your eyes for just a little bit, or so just have them slightly lower, but definitely don't fully open your eyes into a wide gaze. And also try to apply different ways of mental focus, different supports and to focus, and just try different things for the mind to calm down. But definitely don't worry about that. If your mind is very unclear and you become sleepy, and then, as you mentioned before, reflect a little bit on the suffering of samsara, and that should really clarify the mind again. But if still, your mind does not become clear, so either you are too sluggish or you're too restless, too many thoughts in the mind. Both of these faults, like too much clarity to little clarity, both of these actually are connected to our obscurations, the negativities in the mind. And it's a sign that we have more obscurations in the mind. So if our obscurations are really strong, then it's very difficult. We can't meditate because the mind is obscured, basically. And in that case, you should make an effort to practice virtue, like making offerings to the 3 jewels, also commemorating a stupa, or supplicating to the root guru, cultivating a pure view and faith and devotion, and also again and again cultivate a strong compassion for all sentient beings, immeasurable love and compassion. And so, and keep meditating in this way, and even if it just happens for a short time, continue to make an effort and you will improve. So eventually, as you keep making an effort, the obscurations, the karmic obscurations become more and more purified. And then you will see, you will be able to meditate much better and better. So your meditation will definitely increase, will improve if you make a consistent effort.
Tini sama yang satang yang tuzu tes higido sama satang yang pen nampo pe gubo yana pe nga sati sama tarata pen coffin thonya la sopa chiyoro wa tso yana pe tini la sem de pe namton tukcha chiyo sarya tini yana tini sama tes chezogolo hajang chu chi ma yin ba 당가나서지 샘네 탑부터 사마르테스 요사리 사만다므라 대저 인데니 샘네야 샘만보야 다 니세야나 여러와 다 든디 마인 바테스 지마루루 유에 사마텐사야 드니야 마샘 하장기 뇽친 다 뇽네 다라데는 목 누구나 드니 양 잔통야 고힌통야 야 사마테스 주 침보지사야 대저야 데스 스무도 로아코 곰탐난 대저 요래
There are also actually some instructions on the food that we eat, what the things that we eat and drink that are connected to our state of mind. So if your state of mind is more restless and you have a lot of thoughts, then you should stay away from any kind of stimulants. So for example, drinking coffee and so on. There are certain kind of things that you eat and drink that just stimulate you, and so that makes you just even more awake and more active, or like really nutritious, really kind of heavy nutritious food that makes you really active. And you should stay away from that, and don't eat a little bit lighter, and don't use caffeine and things like that. So there definitely is a difference. The food and drink really can have an effect on our ability to abide. So it just depends on your state of mind. So when you're more restless, then you stay away from stimulating food and drink. Then if you're more like passive and more like sluggish and find it hard to get up, then you need the opposite. Maybe then you should drink some tea or some coffee, and maybe you should eat some more nutritious food, more like stimulating food. So you have to see it as different. There are, in the scriptures, they explain different like methods in terms of food and drink that affect one's meditation.
Teni namhi ke tes tu goyera. Namhi ta changmo tang cepa tu su teni yang pe zupu nyop to chaya tang yang che chezoglo zupu pe hachang ke che rikpa chukpo chaya so yang namhi ke teni koyo ke teni tu goyera sa. So changma ngarang karil lingpo chugodu. Teni tu so ngarang rikpa ke teni ha ko goyera sa.
Also, it is also explained that the temperature, the weather are related to one's state of mind. So cold and heat and cold do have an effect on the mind. So they can make the mind more sluggish, or they can make you feel really like overly stimulated or invigorated. So the environment or the temperature in your environment also makes a difference. So again, you have to see for yourself which kind of like environment in terms of temperature and so on suits you the best.
Oh yeah, that's going to be so
then we stop here for tonight and let's do dedication together.
Chancho Simjo Rinpoche Amaje Banam Jeje Jiba Nyamba Miba Yang Kone Kongden Piwa Shu Oe Mane Be Me Hon Ru 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 Oe Mane Be Me Hon Ru. Thank you very much, everybody. Trashidele. Everyone, don't forget homework list 15-minute meditation every day. List anytime okay. Best time is morning, but anytime okay. Okay, bye.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you, Ina. Because it's now quite late, so I will announce very quickly. Next week, the same time, we will have a third session, but tomorrow, don't forget, we have a memorial prayer program for His God Mingyur Rinpoche. So we will invite you all to join with us with DTDL. And the next week on Friday, then we will have the birthday celebration for Dorzin Rinpoche. So don't forget to recite Vaitara mantra and submit to DTTL so that we can achieve 1 million Vaitara mantra for his birthday and also for Gachan Rinpoche long life and the world peace. And the last is we will have a new program also on the September. It is the Nyungne retreat happening on 25th to 27th, and the detail will be translated into Vietnamese and posted on our Facebook. So don't forget to follow, and we would like to invite you all join this very precious program with us. So that's all. We will not waste your time. Now you guys can unmute yourself and say goodbye to Rinpoche. So thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you, Ina. Thank you, Chen. Yeah.
Bye, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Good
Rinpoche.
night.
Rinpoche.
Thank you
Good
everyone.
night.
Rinpoche.
Rinpoche.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Shidele
Rinpoche.
Rinpoche.
Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.
Good
Bye
Rinpoche. Thank you,
bye.
Rinpoche. Thank you,
Bye
Kachin. Thank
bye
you.
everyone.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Bye-bye, Rinpoche.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Rinpoche.
Oh, come on everyone. Bye bye 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 everyone. Happy birthday. Bye bye everyone.
Đây hôm nay sinh nhật
Come on everyone, come on.
Bye bye,
Come on.
Rinpoche.
Come on. Come on,
Rinpoche.
Rinpoche.
Bye, Rinpoche.
Come on.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche.
See you tomorrow. Yes, see you tomorrow, everyone.
See you tomorrow, Rinpoche.
Thank you,
Bye
Rinpoche.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye, Rinpoche. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Arigatou gozaimashita. Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye, Rinpoche.
Bye bye,
Good
everyone.
night. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Rinpoche.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Bye bye. Chahidele, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow, everyone.
See you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Good night, everyone. Good night. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Bye bye mọi người ạ. Hẹn mọi người vào ngày